Hi there, I'm Kurt Baumgartner again. I'm a principal security researcher with GREAT at Kaspersky Lab, and I'm here with Maria Garnaeva, another researcher on our team. We are here to talk about Black Energy 2, and we will talk more about Black Energy 2 on ICS environments, which instead of some of their NATO or military or other diplomatic targets. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with either the group or the information on Secure List that we posted in November, there are some very interesting and significant things about this group and about the tools they are using. So Black Energy started out as a small kit with a simple builder in 2008. It was developed by a pretty well-known Russian hacker that goes by Crash, and it slowly morphed. So we found artifacts that by 2010, the APT actor had already adopted this DDoS toolkit and customized it for their own purposes. And then finally in 2014, we both had a presentation in May at PH Days in Russia on the group, and Eyesight had their big release where they disclosed a 0-day that the group had been using. They referred to the group as Sandworm, and we've been calling them BE2 or Black Energy 2. So some new details that we're going to present today have to do with some plugins that no one else has been able to attain, and there haven't been details floating around on these plugins. We're going to talk a little bit about the ICS environment targeting details. So not necessarily so much about the exploit itself, but these guys were targeting Siemens WinCC software. We'll take a look at some of the details. It's been suggested that they've been automating their attacks, and really from what I'm seeing, that's not the case. It's still manually run. There are people at the keyboard, and then we'll talk about some of their development failures. And I also want to point out that this is still a very relevant threat. While, and in part it's because of statements like this from groups like ICS CERT or the Department of Homeland Security. The Black Energy group popped more than US ICS environments. We had a list of, I think it was 30 different countries that we saw them in. And here on this slide, you'll see a slide from December 10th that the DHS released saying that they found Black Energy in numerous US ICS environments. And the very troubling thing is this statement: many victims cannot be identified, and we expect there are many victims and we have no idea who they are. To me, that's frightening. Because this is an ICS targeted or focused group. So this is not your average APT. So some of the Black Energy 2 Siemens targeting that we had seen in throughout the world, in all likelihood, we're targeting CVE 2014-8551. It was basically a remote server-side attack, and what we would see is ccproject.exe dropping Black Energy droppers, and we would prevent that activity. We know that these attacks were connected with this Sandworm or BE2 group in particular, because when the attack occurred, they exploited the Siemens server, and the download and execute routine pulled the Black Energy dropper from a known BE2 resource at 94, 185, blah, blah, blah. That was where the Black Energy dropper was hosted, and that's why we're certain it was a part of this group's activity in particular. We saw with 2 victims in particular that the group would hit the target and they'd fail. Then they'd wait, they'd return to the target, hit it again, and fail again. And this is why here are a couple of timestamps from these victims. You can see victim A was hit in early 2014, and then basically 30 days later, a little more than 30 days later, the attackers returned and hit the same target, failed again, and just left. Victim B was hit a little more closer to the middle of the year, and then the attackers waited a total of 60 days. Why that is, I don't know, but it says to me that this isn't an AT job or a cron job that just keeps kicking off attacks against against targets they haven't yet victimized. So Maria is going to talk about some of our analysis on the Black Energy 2 plugins. In particular, these are interesting, especially USB and BIOS, which we'll have a unique perspective on.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, Black Energy has a variety of different plugins implementing a variety of different actions from spying and investigating the local network, but we have a separate group of these particular 4 plugins because they interested us much. First of all, probably the most troubling plugin is Destroy plugin. We stumbled upon this plugin on a victim site where the company initiated internal investigation of Black Energy 2 infection, and after some days they started losing their machines, and that's how we obtained the plugin. So it was noticed to be used probably to hide its traces, but most probably it also can be used as a sabotage tool, as we already saw in a recent Sony hack and Destaver malware. But in comparison to this Destaver malware and Shamoon, which implement commercial software LDES driver, in this case, the guys implemented their own way of wiping the data. They have a user mode wiping and a driver mode. And also they have 32 and 64-bit versions for different systems. They are also able to disable Windows file protection in order to delete the main Black Energy 2 driver. And here is the last statement: attempts to parse FAT32 and NTFS file system, but with some notes here later. Well, this ugly screenshot shows a fragment of code of a user mode wipe. Actually, what it does, it opens a handle to the hard drive with system and gets its full size and it wipes per sector in order to wipe the first sectors on the disk, which is strange because the different method is used in the drivers. Also here it uses input-output control code for dismounting value in order to guarantee that there are no collisions and that it will be able to, wipe out the data. So compared to the user mode, the driver tries to parse the file system, and in case of FAT32, it's pretty straightforward. It's just tries to get the offset to the root directory and just loops it and wipes all the data. But compared to FAT32, NTFS is different. It implements a very strange logic, actually, which is not very clear to me. First, it loops through the sectors and checks the file, so-called file record. And firstly, it skips it, but under certain conditions, then it wipes it. And in the very end, it wipes the data in master file table and MFT mirror. So we will mention some details about this plugin, Destroy later, but now I'd like to tell you about the second unusual plugin which attracted our attention. This is a backup channel via Google+. So firstly, I want to know, is there anyone who uses Google+ social network here? So, okay. Actually, I use it too, but not so often, and here is the story. Firstly, we didn't know about the plugin, but we knew about the config file, which contained a very strange number It's highlighted in red, and we had no clue what the number is. And maybe I wonder if anybody who. So it turned out to be a Google Plus account, but I didn't recognize you. So I wonder if anyone can recognize it. So we already saw many examples of using different sites on internet, like Twitter accounts or what I forgot, like. Other Google services, but for the first time we see that Google Plus is abused. So we never observed actually any content on these Google accounts, but we suppose that there should be a PNG file uploaded as an avatar here, and after that, a static analysis shows that it's parsed using certain functions, API functions, and then it is decrypted 3 times with 3 different keys. One hard-coded in the binary, the second key is taken from the decrypted PNG, and the third is actually black energy to user ID, which is generated on the user side and is unique for every victim, which is very strange. It means that the PNG file is supposed to be uploaded for a particular victim. So after these actions, the decrypted contents are actually the new config file, which may contain the new CNC server. Probably this plugin may be used on the victims' network that are highly monitored, and they want to stay hidden in the network. So the next plugin, I would say that it's the most mysterious in the list. What it does, it collects the embedded information on connected USB and SCSI devices, like number of cylinders, the number of tracks per cylinder, the number of bytes per the sector, the device instance ID. So very, very detailed information. What for? Unclear. It just logs it to the file and sends to the CNC server. But the strangest thing is in this set is there is a set of strange calls using SCSI operation codes. The one code used corresponds to a well-documented operation called mode sense. So in this case, it can log that this operation failed or implemented successfully. But the other call with opcode F0 hex was undocumented, and we had no clue what it is. Searching on the internet gave only one reference to the research paper where the guys tried to implement the bad USB thing, working with a particular vendor of controllers of the USB. This vendor is called SMI or Silicon Motion. So as you probably heard, there was a presentation of bad USB on Black Hat, but there was no actually proof of concept code shown in the public. But after that, there was some researches and successful proof of concept of some vendors on USB drives, but there was no vendor or this vendor which uses this particular operation code. So what guys did, they just monitored the USB traffic between the tool, which is meant to restore the firmware, and they noticed this strange operation code, and you can see that this operation code returned to them sequence, string containing the firmware version, non-drive flash ID, and controller part number. So maybe the guys, the Black Energy 2 guys, approximately the same time, read this research paper and implemented this functionality in their plugin. And what is interesting, they do nothing based on this action, just making a probe. BIOS plugin also collects a variety of detailed information on motherboard, processor, BIOS, using a variety of different methods, and we have a question, what for? Why do they do this? They only log it, and there is no other actions. But we can speculate on three assumptions here why they can make it. Either they want to reveal a sandbox or some decoy system who spies on them, or maybe they are trying to penetrate on a network, SCADA ICS network, and they expect some kind of hardware already installed on the system. And maybe there is another option, probably they know nothing about the network, and for some reason they investigate the network in order to understand where they are, what hardware is used. So we can only guess here. And there is very strange fails in implementation, like a distro plugin has a following logic mistake, like they reversed the functions actually that are supposed to parse different file systems. The second mistake here is that they actually don't properly calculate the offset to the root directory in case of FAT32 file system. They forgot to multiply it on sector size and bytes. There is no such mistakes in other plugins, which suggests that probably there is a team in the group and every member is responsible for his own plugin, and one person was unlucky. So here is just another demonstration why we conclude that there are many people in the team. For example, let's take a look on the Linux plugin which makes port scanning. Here we can see the readable code, nothing unusual, everything is clear. But if we take a look at another Linux plugin, which is called Hook, and it is responsible for communicating with the CNC server, we see this ugly thing with big structure with many fields, and all the calls to functions and all the references to the strings are implemented through this structure. So it is only the one plugin who implements it. So yes, I'm done with description.
Okay. So one other unusual thing that we ran into while we were reviewing plugins for this presentation is two targeted DDoS properties. One is a mil.ru address. That's unusual for a group that is possibly suspected to be from Russia. And then down here we also noticed isislen.gov.tr, a Turkish government entity. And we posted this this tweet from a guy falling under the anonymous label who is also attacking this domain as a part of op Turkey. So that's still a mystery to us. We're still trying to figure out if there's any crossover there or what this entity might be attacking that address. And it appears we're kind of their favorite researchers. We found this as a part of their Cisco tickle scripts. And yeah, thank you, Mr. Black Energy. We still grabbed up some of your fresh black energy anyways. So they seem to be non-active right now, and we hope to come back next year with some more fresh black energy for you.
Great. Thank you.